Sophie wasn't expecting much from the blind date her friend set up. After countless disappointing dates, she had agreed reluctantly. But when she arrived at the cozy restaurant and saw Daniel walking in, something felt different. He was calm, confident, and from the moment he sat down, the conversation flowed effortlessly. As they talked over dinner, Sophie found herself opening up more than she expected, sharing stories about her childhood, her fears, and her hopes for the future. Daniel wasn't just listening, he was truly engaged, asking thoughtful questions that made her feel seen. There was an undeniable connection, something Sophie hadn't felt in a long time. She sensed that this wasn't just another ordinary evening. Then, just as dessert arrived, Daniel grew quiet, almost hesitant. He glanced down, then looked back up at her with an intensity that caught her off guard. "I need to tell you something," he said. "My real name isn't Daniel, it's Andrew." Sophie blinked in surprise. "Andrew?" He nodded, his voice quieter now. "I changed it a few years ago after a tough period in my life. I needed to start over." She stayed silent, waiting for him to explain. "I was married once. It ended badly, and I needed to leave that part of my life behind. A new city, a new name. It was all part of starting fresh." Sophie hadn't expected this level of honesty, but instead of feeling distant, she felt closer to him. Andrew's eyes met hers, uncertainty lingering. "If this changes anything, I understand." Sophie paused, thinking, but as she looked into his eyes, she realized this was exactly the kind of openness she had always wanted. Instead of pulling away, she reached across the table and took his hand. "Thank you for trusting me," she said softly. "That must have been hard to share." Andrew exhaled, visibly relieved. "You have no idea." The rest of the evening passed even more effortlessly, their connection growing stronger. By the time they left the restaurant, Sophie knew this wasn't just another blind date. Standing outside, Andrew broke the silence. "I'd really like to see you again." Sophie smiled. "I'd like that too."